The temples at Angkor Wat in Cambodia make up the largest Hindu temple complex in the world.
For 900 years, Angkor Wat was a symbol of heaven on earth. We thought we knew its secrets. We were wrong. Archaeologists, using new ground-piercing radar, just located a hidden vault sealed beneath the main tower.
The Angkor was the largest settlement complex that had ever been built in all of human history before the Industrial Revolution.
What they found inside wasn't treasure, it was a dark warning, a place of intense ritual, and a discovery that changes everything we know about the Khmer Empire. The thing nobody tells you is that the temple wasn't just built to honor the gods, it was built to contain something. The chamber that was never meant to be found. A group of archaeologists, engineers, and digital imaging experts from around the world arrived at the site. They weren't carrying shovels, they were carrying ground-penetrating radar and microseismic sensors. They focused on two key areas: the main Western Causeway, the path every pilgrim used to enter, and the central sanctuary, the holiest tower built for the gods themselves. The instruments sent pulsed waves deep into the ground, reading the echoes like a heartbeat. Each scan sent back layers of color and sound, turning 900 years of silence into digital information. At first, it all looked normal. The foundations were thick and the sand was packed down, all common signs of incredible ancient workmanship. The sensors started picking up nothingness. Deep under the sanctuaries, instead of solid rock, the readings showed long, horizontal gaps. Emptiness. But here's the kicker. These voids were lined with stone that was thicker than anything built above it. It looked like the builders had put their best engineering skills not into the temple everyone could see, but into the one that was hidden below. To put it mildly, this made no sense. Why would you build a massive reinforced structure that no one would ever see? Why support what can't be seen? Some on the team suggested secret tombs or hidden rooms for priests, but the data just kept getting weirder, showing strange corridors that split off like veins, all coming together right under the main tower. Then in the middle of the scans, things went wrong. A small part of the ancient Western Bridge suddenly fell apart. The collapse shook the team, but thankfully no one was hurt. But at the same time, some sensors started having problems. Connections got shorted out, and some devices just stopped working, as if the ground itself didn't want them there. As soon as the power came back on to one of the scanners, a picture flickered onto the screen. It was a faint pattern, a carving that looked chillingly familiar. It looked like Naga, giant snakes, wrapping around human figures. The local workers took one look and stepped back. Some flat out refused to go on. They said the markings were warnings. They were the same symbols found on the few temple doors that had been sealed with mortar centuries ago. The workers said that waking them up would awaken whatever slept below and bring a heavy price. But all eyes were on the team. Journalists were hanging out around the edges, and the project's backers wanted results. The scientists felt the pressure and kept going. They turned the machines back on, made the scan grid bigger, and sent pulses even deeper into the ground. The radar lines got clearer, and then they saw it. It was unmistakable. A single corridor going straight down from the central platform. Its outline was sharp and clear against the rock. This wasn't a natural flaw or a crack, it was a pathway. The digging began the next morning. It was slow, grueling work. Roots and rubble blocked every move, making the entrance look like a knot of veins. After hours, the last layer of soil finally gave way, showing a small stone cutout that led straight into total darkness. A puff of thick, cold air came out. The jungle, usually alive with sound, went completely quiet. After 900 years of silence, the mountain of the gods had finally let out its breath. The opening was just barely big enough for one person to fit through. Taking out one stone at a time from the blocked tunnel felt like pulling teeth out of the mountain. Sensors showed that the air inside was old, stale, and had far less oxygen than the air outside. It had been sealed since the 11th century. When the last slab moved, a slow, heavy hiss came out as if the chamber was giving one last warning. The smell was the first thing that hit the team. It was wet, metallic, and foul. Lights flashed through dust that was so thick it looked like it was alive. There was soot on the walls, and the surfaces were darkened and blistered. Later, team notes said the heat was unbearable and the silence was heavy, pressing down on every heartbeat. As their beams moved across the walls, shapes started to show up. They were carvings of Nagas, the giant snakes, but these weren't the noble protectors seen on the temple above. These snakes were attacking. They were wrapped around human figures, sinking their teeth deep into arms and throats. The message was clear. This was not a safe place. This was a warning. At the far end stood a huge stone door. It had no hinges or handle. Instead, it was sealed with hardened mortar around the edges, and faint sigils were etched into the surface. After hours of careful chiseling, the slab finally gave way with a deep, cracking groan. Light streamed in, cutting through centuries of darkness, and the entire team froze. Bones. A huge number of them. The floor was covered. Around a single central altar, the floor was arranged in rings of skulls and ribs. Wrists were bound with copper wire. Heads were separated from bodies. Spines were split open. These weren't funerals, these were offerings. It was a history of dark rituals, one offering after another left in the dark. On the altar sat small metal pots covered in a dark, dried residue. Later tests in the lab would find that this residue contained dried proteins from both animals and, chillingly, from humans. Nearby, faded Sanskrit and Khmer writing spelled out a message. The offerings below feed the gods. Break this chamber and their hunger returns. But this horrifying vault wasn't found by accident. It was found by technology that first revealed an even bigger secret. The hydraulic city revealed. For decades, Angkor Wat's true shape was hidden by its own success. The temple was famous, photographed, and visited by millions of people, but no one could see how huge the entire complex really was. It was surrounded by too much jungle and too much history. Storms and time had buried the shapes of everything that used to be there. With the naked eye, Angkor Wat looked like a single beautiful building in a sea of green. But that was just a trick. In the early 2010s, researchers flew planes over the jungle carrying LiDAR, a technology that shoots millions of laser pulses per second at the ground. Each pulse hit leaves, branches, and dirt and then bounced back to the sensors. This let computers digitally remove all the layers of jungle and rebuild a perfect 3D map of what was underneath. It was like making the trees see-through. When the first data files came back, the screen lit up. Where there should have been trees, there were roads. Where there should have been chaos, there were perfect grids. The floor of the jungle wasn't random at all. It was planned. They weren't just looking at a temple, they found a city. The digital map showed a massive web of roads, canals, and neighborhoods that covered hundreds of square miles, something an explorer on foot would never be able to see. Angkor was more than just the biggest religious building in the world. It was the center of a long-lost megacity. This ancient city was bigger than modern-day Paris. It was the largest urban center of the entire pre-industrial world. Every line of laser data changed the past. The Khmer builders had created a world of water. Canals brought water to endless rice fields. Giant reservoirs stored monsoon rains like batteries, and water channels kept the city cool when it got too hot. This was, in effect, controlling the weather hundreds of years before air conditioning. People in the past started calling it the hydraulic city, but what many overlooked was something hidden deep in that data. Right inside the temple complex, under the holiest part, the central sanctuary, the lasers found shapes that didn't fit. They were perfect straight squares. Clear geometric lines. These empty spots were perfectly lined up with the foundations of Angkor Wat. They weren't just empty spaces, they were designed. Researchers were shocked by the find. Some said these forms were just foundation deposits, small holes that ancient builders sometimes used for ceremonies to bless a new building. But those deposits are usually only a few feet deep. They weren't huge, perfect geometric holes that went right through the most holy room. Some thought they might be natural shapes, but the symmetry was too perfect for that to be an accident. There was a split in the scientific world. Some people told others to wait, that the data wasn't proof, but others said it was wrong to ignore such clear patterns. The pictures looked fake, they were so clear, and if they were true, they could prove the oldest rumors, that there were hidden rooms under Angkor Wat. This is what triggered the next phase, the ground-penetrating radar that would lead to the vault. The LiDAR proved the ground was altered, but it only confirmed what local legends had claimed for centuries. Rooms that end in silence. For hundreds of years, the folks who lived near Angkor Wat didn't see it as a tourist spot. They thought it was living. They said it seemed to breathe when the wind blew across its moats. When thunder hit its towers, it sounded like the gods were getting up. And when the ground under the rice fields made a hollow sound, they didn't test it. They just turned away. People in the village talked about restless areas of land, places where even birds wouldn't build a nest. Monks told people not to go near certain walls at night because the air felt heavy, like something was waiting below. These weren't just ghost stories. This was advice passed down from generation to generation. Don't wake up what sleeps under the stones. Then one day a stranger broke the silence. His name was Henri Mouhot, a French naturalist who went into the Cambodian jungle in 1860. He wasn't looking for treasure. He was there to get plants, bugs, and artifacts from museums back in Europe. The jungle, on the other hand, had other ideas. The trip was terrible. The air was so sticky he felt like he was breathing steam. Leeches crawled up his legs and the ground was so wet that it ate his boots. The plants got thicker as he went deeper until the green felt like it would never end. Then he saw things that didn't belong in the forest. Straight lines, sharp edges, and spires rising where trees shouldn't be. When he cut through the last vines, it was like a screen fell away. A city made of stone stood in front of him. The cracked faces of gods looked out from the walls. Snakes were curled up along the stairs that went into the shadows. He just stood still when he saw it. Afterward, he wrote that what he saw that day was better than any church in Europe. But after being amazed, Mouhot felt uneasy. As he looked around, he saw something strange. Some tunnels came to a sudden end at smooth walls that didn't fit the original plan. Some were filled with solid mortar, making it look like someone had tried to lock the hallways from the inside. He wrote about rooms that seemed to end in silence. In his drawings, you can almost feel how confused he was. How could someone build something so big that it hides itself? When Mouhot's drawings and diaries got to Paris, it was a huge deal. Explorers and scholars couldn't believe that Asia had a lost civilization of this size, but here's the thing, not all of Mouhot's notes were published. Early drawings of the area didn't show some strange depressions near the Western Gate. Some sketches have been lost forever from the files. Officials said it was just misplacement, but some people thought it was quiet control. People in Cambodia stayed away. They said that workers who touched the wrong walls got sick for no clear reason. Lanterns went out when there was no wind. One worker said that the chisels resisted the stone as if the temple wouldn't open. And around these sealed-off areas were the Naga carvings, the snake guards. Their eyes were fixed on the ground. The message was clear. These weren't doors to go through. They were walls meant to keep something in. These warnings were built into the temple's very design, a design that was a perfect map of the heavens. To understand the secret, you have to understand the lie. 900 years ago, a king in the middle of the Cambodian jungle had an idea to build heaven on earth. His name was Suryavarman II, and he was king of the Khmer Empire. He wanted a memorial that would not only stand out from his enemies, but also last forever. What came out of the jungle wasn't just a temple. It was a stone map of the whole world. It was Angkor Wat. From far away, its towers looked like lotus buds reaching for the sky. But up close, every single block, carving, and curve follows a pattern that is so exact that engineers still can't believe it. The people who built it didn't have steel, cranes, or computers. What do you think? Was the vault a desperate attempt to save their empire, or the dark secret that destroyed it? Let us know below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.